Welcome back to Myrna and Jenn Read the Apocrypha, and that is what you're getting. We are going through the Apocrypha right now. We're choosing different
Yes.
books, and right now we are in Jubilees. And today is a Hallmark day because there are 50 chapters in Jubilee, and we are on chapter 25. We didn't think we would
Woohoo!
get here. Woo woo! A little
We
race.
made it. We made it.
We made it halfway through. And what happens at the halfway point? Well, right now in chapter 24 that we just read, Esau sells his birthright for a little bit of porridge, or more like a stew. And man, he must have been really hungry. So, moving forward here, we get to see what is happening with Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham has
Yeah.
passed away. And so we get Isaac and Rebecca and the sons Jacob and Esau. So let's jump in. And if you guys like this, guess what? Like, subscribe, do all of those things. Send this out to somebody, make their day because, hey, having a little bit of the Apocrypha in your life, learning a little bit more, is it really going to hurt you? No, it's not. It's just going to help you understand life and God and the world a little bit more. That's what it's done for me. And I've read the entire Bible. So I'm enjoying this. So let's get on in here to Jubilee chapter 25. And
Whoa.
let's start going. I think Rebecca is going to have a bunch to say here. Okay. Verse 1. And in the second year of this week, in this Jubilee, Rebekah called Jacob her son, and spake unto him, saying, My son, do not take thee a wife of the daughters of Canaan, as Esau thy brother, who took him 2 wives of the daughters of Canaan, and they have embittered my soul with all their unclean deeds. For all their deeds are fornication and lust, and there is no righteousness with them, for their deeds are evil. And I, my son, love thee exceedingly, and my heart and my affection bless thee every hour of the day and watch of the night. And now, my son, hearken to my voice, and do the will of thy mother, and do not take thee a wife of the daughters of this land, but only of the house of my father and of my father's kindred. Thou shalt take thee a wife of the house of my father, and the Most High God will bless thee, and thy children shall be a righteous generation and a holy seed. All right, Esau, what are you doing?
She's a meddler mama.
All right, Rebecca's a little bit of a meddler, but she has a good point. Like, do not take thee a wife of the daughters of Canaan, because she's seen what happened to Esau. The daughters are not doing the deeds; they're unclean, and she wants her son to have a wife who's going to support him in doing all of these things, like circumcising their children and the male children, and knowing what God's laws are and doing them.
But wait. We're talking about a time when the man is
I
in
know.
charge, basically. So
He is.
I don't know that they would have a whole lot to say about whether the child got circumcised or
No,
not.
I'm not saying that she would get a decision on that, but as a wife, she still has influence with her husband.
Well, you would hope so, but maybe not if she's just
I don't.
if she is what this is, says they are, that their deeds are fornication, that they have unclean deeds. If the man knows, if the mom knows, I'm assuming that Esau knows. I don't know that there would be a whole lot of doing what the wife wanted with that.
I'm not saying
I don't know.
doing what the wife wanted, but they're definitely, look what Rebecca was able to do. Abraham went to Rebecca, right, and told her, I would like it to be Jacob. And she was like, okay, I got you, Abraham. And she made sure he was raised a certain way. She made sure that he understood certain things.
Yeah, but she was that kind of a woman. These guys are not.
What do you mean these guys are not?
Well,
the daughters of Canaan?
Esau's wives doesn't seem to be that kind of a wife.
Right. That's why she wants to make sure her son knows, don't take those wives. You need someone
Well,
of
no, yeah.
our house.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, no, it makes sense what I was saying. With the things that you
Oh.
were saying
Mm-hmm.
were things that, yes, they should do, but I'm not necessarily sure they would have influence with their spouse because of the type of people they are.
All right.
But yes, she wants him to have a wife that will want to have the children circumcised, that would want
Mm-hmm.
to
Yes.
to serve their husband, that would want to do
Mm-hmm.
all of those kind of things,
Yes.
and have a good relationship with their husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is the difference. I'm just was saying that I don't know that they would have the influence because of the type of people they are. But yeah, Rebecca would like that for her husband, her son, Jacob.
She would.
I mean, because having a good relationship with your spouse, especially at this time in the world, I think would be necessary because they have to travel a lot. I mean, when they say they have to leave home and do something, like I don't know, maybe the whole families all the time move, but I'm not sure that all the time they move. I think Abraham went on trips quite often, and his wife stayed in a specific area, and that he traveled a lot. That's how I'm seeing it. There was a lot of travel for him, and not that they didn't all stay. Like when he did leave and go and live somewhere for 7 years, what was it, Herden or something?
Yeah.
I'm sure they all went, but I think that sometimes when they needed to talk to people or do stuff, it was a trip that he would take without everybody, with just a handful of people that would go with him. I see it being that way. Maybe I'm totally seeing it differently, but I would think you would have to have a good relationship that you could trust that your wife would keep things going at home the way you want them to be, and not sleeping with all of the men in your group, right?
In your group, right?
I mean, that would provide some trust in that relationship. At least that's what I'm seeing.
Okay. I find it interesting here as well that for all their deeds are fornication and lust, but aren't they married to Esau?
That's what I'm saying.
But I find that it's interesting that, so they're sleeping around on Esau?
On Esau, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I get it. Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean. There wouldn't be that respect. Even if they did want their sons to be circumcised and Esau didn't want to do it, there wouldn't be that relationship where he'd say, "Oh, I kind of get why you would want to do that. I can respect that. I respect you. Let's do it." Right? There was none of that.
Okay, let's continue.
Okay. 4. And then spake Jacob to Rebekah his mother, and said unto her, Behold, mother, I am 9 weeks of years old, and I neither know nor have I touched any woman, nor have I betrothed myself to any, nor even think of taking me a wife of the daughters of Canaan. For I remember, mother, the words of Abraham our father, for he commanded me not to take a wife of the daughters of Canaan, but to take a wife from the seed of my father's house and from my kindred. I have heard before that daughters have been born to Laban, thy brother, and I have set my heart on them to take a wife from amongst them. Okay, it took me a minute when I heard Laban. I was like, wait, what?
Yes, I know.
It took me a minute to remember the different
Laban. Yes, there's a different Laban.
So he's kind of like he already knew what he was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to follow what Grandpa said.
Yep. Good guy.
Okay. I'm going to play little devil's advocate for a second.
Mm-hmm.
You know how they say now that um, if someone doesn't have good self esteem, if you talk to them
Mm-hmm.
like in a positive way, they'll get self esteem.
Okay.
So, why do you think? I mean, I know why they say everything from Canaan is bad,
Mm-hmm.
but why would this not be like gossip? Why would this not be something the prophet would come out and say, "Hey, maybe you shouldn't be talking like that about somebody else"?
About the
And,
people of
and
Canaan?
yeah, maybe it's simply maybe I'm asking that simply because we just got done with conference and there was a lot of uh, forgiveness, repentance, helping to continually have good self esteem and confidence in God and da 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 da. But my brain thinks, isn't there just a lot of gossip about Canaan? Not that gossip's wrong. Not that gossip, what the gossip is that they're saying is false. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying that, but it just seems to be a lot of gossip about Canaan. I guess my question is, do you think that's okay in God's eyes?
Well, see, I wouldn't consider what they're saying to be gossip. I think what they're saying is there's a group of people who are living very immoral lives according to God's laws, and you need to be aware of it. You need to be worried about your associations
Yes, I
because
get that,
there
but they're
aren't a
actually
lot of people.
saying that. I mean, basically, they're saying nothing good comes from Canaan.
Right.
How do we know that? How do we not know that maybe there is something good there? They're just putting this blanket statement on Canaan. It's kind of like putting a blanket statement on, I don't know, someone in your ward, or the young women don't know how to do this, or the young men. It's kind of like putting a blanket statement on something. I don't know. My brain is just saying, is this what our prophets talk about when they talk about not gossiping, not talking bad about people, and trying to help them build their self esteem? That maybe they should say, we don't want you to take wives from Canaan because we have yet to find or see anyone from Canaan that's good. Not saying they're all bad, but it would be better to just steer away from them, um, because we don't know. We know that there's been a lot of teaching and a lot of not clean things happening there. Um, so why don't we look somewhere else for a spouse? Would that be more acceptable to God than simply knocking down all of his children?
That is a question.
I'm just
Mm-hmm.
just thinking.
Mm-hmm. I just see it as not that they're making a complete full blanket statement, but in general, the group over there, they attract it's the law of attraction. They attract bad elements, people that are not wanting to gather together. Now, we do get an account in scriptures with Amulek in the Book of Mormon that, you know, the prophet of the time, he basically wiped his feet of a group of people because he didn't find anything good among them, and yet there was one guy still in there
Yeah.
who who was a good guy.
Yeah.
There was an Amulek, and why Amulek stayed in that city, you never know why. Like maybe he didn't have money to get out. Maybe there's lots of reasons.
Yeah.
So there is a good element in Canaan. However, it's one of those things of are you going to talk about the group as a whole? As there could be a few good souls, good people doing what they're supposed to do in Canaan,
Yeah.
or is it the general idea of what happens in Canaan is like Sodom and Gomorrah? It is quite the town.
Mm.
To me, it was not
It's
being
just
specific. To me, it was just there's a general understanding of the people in Canaan. So for me, I don't consider that gossip, and maybe that's my definition of gossip. Maybe that's on me. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not judging anybody. I'm simply
Nope.
saying that's just flying around
Interesting.
in my head.
I get it.
But I mean, I have the same thoughts about Sodom and Gomorrah, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
But then God has said some things himself, so maybe
So
there's
anyone,
a middle that we don't know about.
maybe, and if anyone has any ideas about that answer, throw them down in the comments below. I'd love to see what somebody has to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Me. 7.
Yep.
And for this reason, I have guarded myself and my spirit against sinning or being corrupted in all my ways throughout all the days of my life. For with regard to lust and fornication, Abraham, my father, gave me many commands. And despite all that he has commanded me, these 22 years my brother has striven with me and spoken frequently to me and said, My brother, take to wife a sister of my 2 wives. But I refuse to do as he has done. I swear before thee, mother, that all the days of my life I will not take me a wife from the daughters of the seed of Canaan, and I will not act wickedly as my brother has done. All right, so he's reassuring his mom.
Yeah.
I will not do it. Abraham told me not to do it. I've made a decision. My brother Esau has been like, hey, come on, buddy. No, I have said no, and I plan not to.
Yeah. He's just reassuring that he
knows what he needs.
He's like, Mom, I've already had the opportunity and I still haven't done it, and I have no plans on doing it. So back off. Kind of
back up. Take a step back, Mom. I got this.
I'm not even ready for this at all yet. So just step on back, babe. Yeah.
Okay. No wife from Canaan. All right.
10. Fear not, mother. Be assured that I shall do thy will and walk in uprightness and not corrupt my ways forever. And thereupon she lifted up her face to heaven and extended the fingers of her hands and opened her mouth and blessed the Most High God who had created the heaven and the earth, and she gave him thanks and praise. And she said, Blessed be the Lord God, and may his holy name be blessed forever and ever, who has given me Jacob as a pure son and a holy seed, for he is thine, and thine shall his seed be continually and throughout all the generations forevermore.
All right. So she lifted up her hands and she praised God for it. All of her work early on worked in taking Abraham's suggestion that he was the one that it was going to come from.
Yeah.
Because Esau struggled.
Yeah.
He struggled.
I don't know. We don't know that much about him. But he seems to, gone the other route.
Yes, he has. Definitely. Man, the life of being a mom doesn't matter. All generations, doesn't matter. Moms still have the same problem.
Well, yeah, the job doesn't change
It doesn't change.
Generation doing it.
Nope, it does not.
It does not.
Okay.
All right.
She continues here. Bless him, O Lord, and place in my mouth the blessing of righteousness, that I may bless him. And at that hour, when the spirit of righteousness descended into her mouth, she placed both her hands on the head of Jacob and said, Blessed art thou, Lord of righteousness and God of the ages, and may he bless thee beyond all the generations of men. May he give thee, my son, the path of righteousness and reveal righteousness to thy seed. Oh.
Okay, so
all right. Unexpected.
We have the priesthood.
Yes, I would say. That's interesting.
Yeah. I love it though. I've always believed that it was this way. And then for some reason it had to be changed. That just the men were given the responsibility, not the ability, the responsibility of doing it in this life space.
Mm-hmm. I love that it says, though, the spirit of righteousness descended into her mouth. So, like, she felt the spirit tell her what to say.
Yeah.
But she placed both her hands on the head of Jacob. So there you go. He got a blessing from his mother.
Yeah. I don't think it's done yet.
So it continues.
Yeah. Let's see. And may he make thy sons many during thy life. And may they arise according to the number of the months of the year. And may their sons become many and great among the stars of heaven, and their numbers be more than the sand of the sea. And may he give them goodly land, as he said he would give it to Abraham, and to his seed after him always. And may they hold it as a possession forever. And may I see, born unto thee, my son, blessed children during my life, and a blessed and holy seed may all thy seed be. Okay, so this is a baby blessing, basically, in a way. What we do is baby blessings.
But
he's an adult, but it's kind of,
yeah, you're right. It's kind of like that.
Kind of in the format of what we say when they're children. You know, have a lot of seed, be blessed. You know, I mean, it could be done anytime, but it is kind of seems to be following that one.
Yeah, it does kind of come off as somewhat of a baby blessing.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
And I like that she throws herself in on it, as in, and may I see born unto thee children during my life. May I see my grandchildren.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
just
then
continually wanting the blessings of God upon him and his children.
Yep. So less than Holy Spirit. And as thou hast refreshed thy mother's spirit during her life, the womb of her that bare thee blesses thee thus. My affection and my breast bless thee, and my mouth and my tongue praise thee greatly. Increase and spread over the earth, and may thy seed be perfect in the joy of heaven and earth forever. And may the seed rejoice, and on the great day of peace may it have peace. And may thy name and thy seed endure to all the ages, and may the Most High God be their God, and may the God of righteousness dwell with them, and by them may his sanctuary be built unto all the ages. It's interesting that the womb of her that bare thee bless thee thus. That's quite a sentence. Because she's saying herself, and the womb and my womb bless thee. We don't. That's an odd statement to me.
It looks to me like an extension in a way to initiatory of the temple.
That's what I was gonna say.
Are we watching an initiatory of temple here?
I know, that's what I was thinking. Actually, something about it has that Hallmark feel of it, right?
Sorry, it took me a minute to come up with that word. All I could think of was endowment. And
you're like, it's not that. It's not that. The thing before that.
Yeah, the thing before that. It just kind of seems like it's. It just seems to follow that a little bit. allow
It
me to
does.
be a blessing.
It's like touching at it a little,
Mhm, mhm.
which I didn't expect. That
Yeah,
seems
which, it doesn't surprise me because the more you begin to look at the scriptures in a temple way,
yeah.
there are a lot of temple ceremonies
Hmm.
that we read and don't even realize we are reading a temple ceremony.
Yes. Hmm.
So it's not surprising me
That it comes up.
that it comes up.
Hmm.
Uh,
I'm glad it wasn't just
it's
me.
interesting.
That's why I
Yeah,
just waited for you to come up with the word.
yeah,
I'm like, is
you're
it the
welcome.
same word? Is she seeing? And I can't. It. I think it was my breast bless thee, and my mouth and my tongue praise thee. There's something about that,
Hmm.
and my womb, and yeah, it's just interesting.
Yeah,
Unexpected yet expected, I guess, is my conclusion there. But this is definitely a hands on the head blessing to her son,
absolutely.
which I'll let you know I wasn't expecting.
No, blessed be he that blesseth thee, and all flesh that curseth thee falsely, may it be cursed. And she kissed him and said to him, may the Lord of the world love thee as the heart of thy mother, and her affection rejoice in thee, and bless thee. And she ceased from blessing.
What a great
I
mother
don't know.
son moment.
I love that.
We don't in does that actually appear in Genesis that she blesses him?
I maybe she says some of these things, but I don't think we know it as a what it seems to be here, a priesthood blessing with hands on the head.
Right. So I'm looking right now.
So it almost seems
Um
to be like a blessing, a prayer blessing.
so in chapter 27 of Genesis, you get part of this story. Um the interesting part here is that Isaac, it says that Isaac was old and his eyes were dim so that he could not see. Um, and so he called Esau to him and had a conversation with him. And then later on, Jacob goes unto Isaac. Uh,
Okay,
and
this is exactly what we're going to read next chapter.
oh,
So this
okay.
happened
So
before that, supposedly.
supposedly, okay, because it says that Rebecca fears that Jacob may marry one of the daughters of Heth. So that to me is interesting.
Yeah, because that's I just jumped to the next
Okay,
chapter.
so
What you read with more detail will be what we're talking about next.
okay, so it's interesting that they put it in together in this one because
Yeah.
Genesis chapter 26 is Esau marries wives to the sorrow of his parents. He marries the Canaanite women.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So they're getting, it's very similar. We're just, some of them give more detail than the other, which is
Well, I
interesting.
think it comes from how well do you know Esau,
Yeah.
whoever's
Right.
writing it, right?
Yeah. Right.
They may not know that much. Whoever's writing this may not necessarily know that much, or may not even think that what his part is what's
It's
important.
true.
All that's important is the progenitor line, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they're talking about here. So anything you write always comes from a perspective that
Right.
I think you have to take into account when you're reading something.
Mm-hmm. So I find it highly interesting that at this point, if you're going with Genesis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Genesis chapter 25 is where Esau gives up his birthright to Jacob for the
The
stew.
pottage. Mm-hmm.
That's chapter 25, and that was chapter 24. They are very, very close in actually chapters,
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, that's
which
interesting.
I didn't realize until just now.
Yeah.
Because that is really close to the same amount of time being taken to tell the same type of stuff.
Yeah.
So to me, that's pretty darn close in matching up.
Yeah.
So that, I don't know, that's just interesting to me. I wouldn't have thought the Apocrypha. I guess in the beginning I envisioned the Apocrypha to be like really far off in different ways. I don't know
Mhm.
why, but it's matching up fairly consistent. We're just getting other details in the Apocrypha
Yeah.
that don't appear.
Right.
And it does not, from what I can see here in Genesis, it does not say that Rebecca,
Bless us.
yeah, I'm just seeing if no, he forbids things. Yeah, so it doesn't actually say that Rebecca blesses him. So interesting. Interesting that this is where we get now that we get an account of Rebecca blessing Jacob with her hands on his head. Now, I know that there are stories in the pioneer times that husbands were not around and the women gave blessings to their cattle, that they would rise and walk, that they
Well,
did other things
yeah, back then
back
actually,
then. Mhm.
um, Joseph said that was okay. The women were
Mhm.
given the ability to use the
Mhm.
priesthood of their husband. They were
Correct.
never given the priesthood.
Priesthood. Correct.
They were able to use the priesthood of their husbands to bless children,
Mhm.
family, um, which is no different than it is nowadays. We can use our uh, father's priesthood if we're not married,
Mhm.
or our husband's priesthood if we are. We don't perform the ordinance the same way.
Correct.
We call upon the priesthood to fulfill whatever we are asking the Lord to fulfill through a prayer.
Right.
But it is
And
the same thing
Mhm.
because we are calling upon their priesthood. But in reality, what we're doing is we're really just using ours. We're just not using. We're just invoking His power to give a blessing. Right?
Well,
We're still using our priesthood. We're just using the power that's been giving them on this earth to give blessings. So we go through that to do the blessing. Does that make sense?
I think so. There's an enzyme story that I read decades ago, Kate, several decades ago, probably,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that what are those ins and outs and what have the brethren revealed? And
Yeah.
are you okay with things changing? The
Yeah.
way things were done and the way things they are now done could be different. And that doesn't mean that things are wrong. It just
Mm-hmm.
means that they are different. And
Right.
that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think people just need to, like we were talked about to us in conference,
Mm-hmm.
stop comparing ourselves to each other.
Yeah.
Um, because, for example, you or I,
Mm-hmm.
we may receive something totally different of how we should do something and should not do something,
Mm-hmm.
um, depending on our relationship with our Heavenly Father.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we, we, we get and receive revelation all in
Junction.
there in conjunction with our obedient.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so just because I'm told to do something different than you're told to do doesn't mean that I'm any better than you. That is the revelation that was given, and you received it because of your obedience.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's not going to have the exact same answer to the questions, depending on their relationship with their Heavenly Father.
That would be true.
If you don't have really a relationship with Him, do you think you're going to get an answer that you're going to understand? Most likely not, because you don't know how He talks to you, or you've forgotten how He talks to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so you may think that you've received something because that's what you want, and you're like, okay, good. I'm going to go do this because I think this is what God told me to do. When in reality, He's just you don't remember His voice because you haven't been obedient to Him.
Mm-hmm.
And those ones that are obedient, you're not going to get something that's totally against the gospel plan. So, but it may be different. I mean, I may be told to buy a black car, and you may be told to buy a red car. It just whatever the difference is, doesn't really make a difference in the overall ending of things. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. I think it does. And that's the thing about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is we believe that the heavens are open and that God is leading His church just like He did during these times. He was talking to Abraham. He talked to Isaac. Jacob and him have a relationship, and we believe that we can have a relationship with God as well. And that relationship is going to look a little different dependent upon each person because we relate with each other in our own way. And I love that about our teachings.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It makes sense in how that
it makes it
works.
an individual thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't, my brain can't comprehend your success or failure is dependent on the group as a whole.
Right.
Because I may give more or less effort. Why should I get the same benefit? And so I love that it's individual because then it's you. It all depends on you what you end up in the end.
Right.
With it in the end. It's you. So I can only control me, so I like that. That is what's important.
Okay, we went into the weeds here at the end, but but there are just these connecting ideas and thoughts that happen.
Yeah.
As we've been reading a lot of this. So thank you. All right, guys. There's chapter 25 halfway through. Now we have the rest of Jubilee to get into as we move forward here. And I'm excited to continue to read these stories that I grew up hearing about. But now at my age in my life, I find much more meaning in it as I contemplate Rebecca as a mother and having children, and you just see things, you can see things from different perspectives and lights. Thank you so much for being with us. Please again, like, subscribe, send our link out. Myrna and Jenn read the Apocrypha. We're so excited to continue this process. We really are. Come join us as we continue. All right, guys, have a good time. We'll see you next week. Bye. And as always, wait, as always, Apocrypha.